Here I will speak about some simple vocabulary exercises. You need to do some exercises to develop your vocabulary. And these can be very simple. So we can start with grouping words, making groups of words according to certain groups or sets. One thing we can think about is the difference. The difference between one object and another, or a difference between one event and another, or a difference between one person and another person. To give you an example, some things, for example, that what are the things that you find in your home but that you don't find outside? So think of some things that you find in your home. Make a list. Then think of some things that you find outside that you won't find in your home. For example, you may not have a certain kind of machine in your home, but you may find it outside. So once you make a list of some of these things, you can be quite sure of the differences between these things, and you can describe them in a better way. In many of your speaking tasks, you have to describe something. So you can describe something by comparing it with something else. Events. An event which happened in the past, or an event which is happening now, or one type of event and another. For example, taking a trip abroad to traveling at home. What's the difference? So you might make a list of things, words that happen that you may use when you are speaking about traveling abroad. And you can compare it to the things which happen when you are traveling in your own country. So you can make a list of two different kinds of events that take place. Or you can make a difference between what happens in a conference and what happens in a party. So different kinds of things will happen and you will use different kinds of words, right? So you may talk about a conference, you may give a speech in a conference, whereas in a party, you may socialize with people. You may interact with people. So there are different activities associated with each thing. So make a list of the words that you will use in each case. Similarly, when you describe people, you have to be quite careful in showing or describing their characteristics, their character, using different kinds of words. So make a list of words to describe one person. For example, it may be the height of that person, it may be the age of that person, and so on. And then you could compare it with another person. You can use all kinds of words to describe different people in this way. Actions, the actions that you do. For example, different kinds of activities that people do at home, different activities that people do in their professional lives. Just to give you an example, a painter, what does a painter do? Well, you could say a painter paints. But if you were asked, what does a dentist do? What does a dentist do? So the dentist looks after your teeth, but you can't use the same words as you would use with painter. So a driver, you could say what a driver does. A driver drives the vehicle. But when you say, what does a mechanic do? Then what would you say? You would need a different word. You would need a word like a mechanic repairs a machine. So in this way, you have to choose the right words. And for this, you need practice because sometimes you can't think of the right word just at the very outset. If you have practice, then you can do it. Then associations. Associations are very common ones. That is, you associate an adjective with a noun. So you can say an interesting book, but you cannot say a happy book. Whereas you can say a happy person and you can say an interesting person. So for person, you can use both the adjectives like happy and interesting, but for book, you cannot use both those adjectives. You can only use an adjective like interesting. You can't use an adjective like happy. So this is just an example to show that different kinds of adjectives will go with different kinds of nouns. And these are what we call the combinations of the words or associations of words. So if you do some practice in these areas of vocabulary, even with simple words, you will be able to express a lot of things and you will never be at a loss for words.